Men who proposed and she said no. What happened afterwards with your life? Story 1. My mother told my father no 3 times. On the 3rd time, he got wasted at a local bar and basically started pouring his heart out to anyone who'd listen. Mind you, it's a very small village in the Italian Alps, and my father barely spoke Italian, and no one in the village spoke English, including my mother. Word got back to my mother about this sad American at the bar, so she went to find him, and she told him she'd marry him. My parents celebrated their 44th anniversary last month. Hooray! Story 2. My friend A had been with his girlfriend B for years, so he decided he wanted to propose. What he didn't know is that B was also thinking about proposing to him. A proposed first, and B freaked out because she had already said her proposal and bought a ring, so she said no. Over the next week, B freaked out more and more and refused to answer A's calls and messages. A then decided to save the money he had saved up to buy a plane ticket to Europe. What was supposed to be a 3-month trip through Western Europe turned out to be a year-long trip around the world. One day, A says that he's coming back and B decides to go and wait for him at the airport and propose to him there. It turns out that while being in Peru, A met a girl and they fell in love almost immediately and got married in Peru. 5 years later, A and his Peruvian wife are still happily married and recently had a baby, while B hasn't still quite forgiven herself for ruining her relationship with A. Whoa, what a roller coaster of emotions. It's amazing how life takes unexpected turns. I feel bad for B, but at the same time, it's hard not to be happy for A and his new wife. It's a good reminder that sometimes when things don't work out the way we planned, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Who knows, maybe B will find her own happiness someday. Either way, congratulations to A and his wife on their beautiful family. Story 3. In 2017, Google came up with this idea to allow you to make photo books out of your Google Photos account. My girlfriend and I had been dating for almost 2 years, and I knew she was the one I wanted to marry. So I created this wonderful photo book of all of our selfies together and ended up with a page made out of a photo I generated that said, "Will you marry me?" I then proceeded to put all these things into an album and build the photo book. What didn't occur to me at the time was that the album I put these in was a shared album, and the other person gets a notification when you add new photos to it. And the other person that the album was shared with, my girlfriend. That evening, we had dinner and it all came out. She saw the photo, she wasn't ready. There were a few reasons why, but they were good reasons and smart reasons, mostly to do with timing, family, and finances. We weren't breaking up, we just weren't getting engaged at that time. A year later, we have fully discussed the concept of getting married. We went ring shopping, she picked her own ring, and by the time I actually did propose, we both knew what the answer would be. We celebrated our first wedding anniversary in April. It seems to have worked out so far, and the photo book is on a shelf to my left as we speak. I am a firm believer that the only surprise in a proposal should be how you are proposing, not that you are. She or he should know that it is going to happen at some point, but not know how. Marriage is a big deal and should be discussed extensively beforehand, as it is a huge legal agreement. I'm glad it ended up working out for you. The photo book idea is really sweet. Story 4. Not my story, but someone I'm friends with. They both had crappy homes and became a couple at 14. Somewhere around 20, he proposed to her. She said she wasn't ready to commit yet. After that, he'd propose to her every year, partially in hopes she would be ready, but it was also kind of a ritual where he would show her that he's still serious. She would say no every time. In their late 20s, he was done with his studies. He could see the finish line, so she told him she's ready, meaning marriage and eventually children. That's when he gets second thoughts about marrying the only woman he ever had a relationship with, and he wasn't sure if he was making a mistake. They went on a break. She went to the US from Europe to do her PhD at the MIT. They drifted apart more. She moved on and found a new long-term relationship with a partner that's a lot better for her, while he quickly regretted ending the relationship and started freaking whomever he could find on Tinder without being able to form a meaningful relationship after. Story 5. We were dating for a little over a year, but I was so sure that she was the one. I drove 2 hours to see her at her college and went on a beautiful winter night walk and proposed. She looks me right in the eyes and said, "Oh, you thought this was serious? Well, I don't know how to say this other than I have been seeing other people. Well, actually, I have been seeing other women." I was stunned. I got up, put the ring in my pocket, and walked to my car, got in, and drove away, never looking back, crying the whole time. Haven't seen her or spoken with her in 7 years, even though she has tried countless times to reach out. Now it's a story I tell friends who are nervous about asking their significant others to marry them, reminding them that even if they say no, it could be worse. Story 6. She had cancer. I said we should get married because I had full medical coverage from my work. She said no. And over time we grew apart. Haven't talked to her in 15 years. Don't know if she died. Reply 1. I know a couple who did just that. He proposed in order to give her citizenship and health insurance so she could remain here and get cancer treatment she desperately needed. They stayed married for about 15 years and he even adopted her son, but they never lived together or were romantically involved. Years later, they divorced when he met the woman of his dreams and wanted to get married. They are all very close friends with no drama. She lived and is a university professor now. He is in another state with the woman of his dreams. Story 7. My ex-husband didn't get the chance to propose. He had been keeping the ring hidden at his mom and dad's house. We were on our way out to dinner at a nice restaurant, and we stopped at their house on the way there. I thought we were just going to say hi. We sat down for a few minutes, and he excused himself to go to the bathroom. His mom followed him out of the room and returned a few moments later with him at her heels, tossed the ring right into my lap, and said, "I guess this is yours." I was shocked. We had just found out I was pregnant and he had been planning to propose at Christmas, but decided to do it early. His mother didn't like me, and she's definitely at least one of the things we divorced over. Jeez, talk about a surprise proposal. It's too bad that your ex-husband's mother decided to ruin the moment, especially since you were pregnant and it should have been a special time. It's understandable that you two ultimately ended up divorcing, especially if she was a factor in the breakup. But hey, at least you have an interesting story to tell about your proposal. I hope you've been able to find happiness since then. Story 8. Not me, but a guy I knew proposed to his then-girlfriend in a restaurant. Made sure to have a friend record it. She walked out when he popped the question and pretty much ghosted him. He started drinking, found a new passion in gambling, and gambled all his savings away. He ended up living on money of the state, works a garbage picker job now, and almost set his house on fire at least 4 times that I know of by making food and falling asleep drunk. He was a cool guy, friendly to some, but the state he is in is just sad. Hope at some point he picks up his life again. I haven't heard of him in years, so no idea where he is now. Story 9. She was in trauma from a past relationship, and at the time, I wanted to help her move on. And in that act, I realized that I've fallen in love with her, as she's the one who, despite being in depression, helped me out of my social anxiety. I just couldn't see her suffer, so I proposed to her and got rejected, as she wasn't ready to be in another relationship. And since I confessed about love, she got more anxious, and our relationship was temporarily over. We didn't talk or have contact for months. Later on, I somehow contacted her. We had a bit of talk and asked how she was doing, and learned that she has been shutting herself in her room, minimizing contact with people. I still had romantic feelings for her, but I wanted to be with her and help her move on, so I insisted being friends again. We spent our time like that, and honestly, she's the only friend I had. Time passed, and when I saw she's getting back to her normal life, I proposed to her again, and she accepted. It was a long way to that day. I've never been happier in my life. It's been 4 years since then, though we have arguments due to different views, but we always come up with a solution to resolve things. And I can say this with certainty that nobody can love me the way she does. I feel lucky to have her in my life. Story 10. My dad asked my mom to marry him several times, and she said no multiple times. One day, my dad asked my mom to marry him, yet again, and she said yes. He freaked out and left her apartment and dumped her. 3 weeks later, he hated his life without her and begged her to take him back and marry him. They were married 9 months later for 16 years until my mom passed away from cancer. They loved each other so much and had such a deep appreciation for each other. That was 25 years ago. My dad has not remarried. No one will ever come close to my mama. It's amazing how sometimes things don't work out the way we expect them to, but end up working out in the end. It's touching to hear that your dad and mom had such a strong love for each other, even after multiple rejections and a brief breakup. It's sad to hear about your mom's passing, but it's clear that she made a huge impact on your dad's life and heart. May her soul rest in peace. Story 11. I remember the day like it was yesterday. I had been planning to propose to my girlfriend Claire for weeks. I thought the hot air balloon festival would be the perfect place. With all the colors in the sky and people around, it seemed like a great idea. I was nervous, but I had no idea what was about to happen. I got down on one knee, and before I could even say anything, a crowd formed around us. People started taking out their phones, ready to record the moment. I couldn't back down now. "Claire," I said, "will you marry me?" I didn't expect her answer to be a simple no. I was shocked and embarrassed. People in the crowd murmured and looked away, feeling awkward. Claire and I left separately, and our relationship pretty much ended right then and there. The following months were tough. I buried myself in work and tried to forget about the rejection. Time passed and I began to accept what happened. I decided to focus on myself, so I started spending more time with friends and picked up new hobbies. One of those hobbies was photography, which led me to an art class. In that class, I met Emily. She was funny, outgoing, and incredibly talented. We hit it off right away, and soon enough, we were inseparable. We had a connection I had never felt with Claire, and I started to see the silver lining in my past heartbreak. A couple of years later, I found myself back at the hot air balloon festival with Emily. I had decided to give proposing another shot. This time, though, I was confident and excited. When I got down on one knee, Emily's eyes filled with tears, and she said yes. Looking back, I can see that Claire saying no was actually a good thing. It forced me to focus on myself and led me to meet Emily. Sometimes life doesn't go as planned, but those surprises can turn out to be the best thing that ever happened to us. Story 12. A few years ago, I was in a serious relationship with a girl named Sarah. We had been together for 3 years, and I genuinely believed she was the one. So, one summer evening, I mustered the courage to propose at her favorite park. I took her to the spot where we first met, my heart pounding in anticipation. When I got down on one knee, Sarah looked at me in shock, and before I could even finish my question, she blurted out a no. My heart sank, and I could feel my face turning red from embarrassment. She quickly left the park, leaving me to face the curious onlookers alone. Sarah and I broke up shortly after that, and I was devastated. I buried myself in work, and to keep myself busy, I decided to join a gym. I thought it would help me cope with the pain, but little did I know that it would change my life forever. One day, as I was working out, I noticed a woman struggling to use a weight machine. I offered to help her, and we struck up a conversation. Her name was Lily, and she had just moved to town to start a new job. We quickly became friends and started hanging out outside the gym. As our friendship grew, so did our feelings for each other. After a few months of dating, I knew I was falling in love with Lily. She was smart, funny, and had an incredibly kind heart. It felt like fate had brought us together. It's been 2 years since I proposed to Sarah, and I can honestly say I've never been happier. Lily and I moved in together, and we're planning a future filled with love and adventure. As much as it hurt to hear no from Sarah, I now realize that it was a blessing in disguise. If she had said yes, I would have never met Lily, the woman who truly completes me. Sometimes, life's rejections are just a stepping stone to something even better. Please leave your story down below in the comments. I would absolutely love to make a video about them in the future, and also don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, Tony's fam, peace out.